Hi, and welcome to our second community chat. A little background information. First of all, my name is Shantae. For the purpose of life, I would like to be called Tay. And I am a CMX Connect host, and CMX is a community management platform that is predominantly based in the United States of America, but has expanded to other regions globally. And CMX Kingston, the chapter that I am the host for, is the first within the Caribbean. And it was because I felt like there was a need for us to be having conversations about building community, because while we can see it in some sectors, like within NGOs and maybe within ministries that have anything to do with social security and as a part of cultural practices within the region, we're not having conversations about how to build community. It's just an expectation that once you are in proximity to people, you are in a community. And that is a form of community, but it's not intentionally building community. And in talking about community, there are people in and about the world that I would love to have a conversation about. And today I'm joined by one of them. And I love calling your name Chanelle Beatrice because I'm like, you have two first names. And it's very exciting. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me today. Welcome all the way from Trinidad at 7:07 p.m. How are you?
I am good. A little nervous, but I'm happy to be here. This is the first time I'm using this platform, and it's always good to have conversations with you, so I'm looking forward to speaking.
Oh, you said that like we've spoken more than 5 times.
Shantae, please, this is being recorded.
Having nerves is also very fine, and it means that you're present, I guess, because like, can you be nervous and not present in a moment? Possibly if you shut down, but
Maybe.
that's beyond the point. I love to go into a space and invite people to do a little grounding. I don't know if you want to take some breaths with me. This is also being extended to the persons in the chat. All 4 of you, thank you so much for joining. So to like get yourself ready, what you're going to do, if you're able to, is to place your feet gently on the ground. Relax the arms, relax the shoulders. Exhale here. Inhaling through the nose, allowing the tummy to expand, and exhaling out the mouth. Then the inhale again, out through the mouth. Inhaling. We're going to hold here for a count of 2, 3, 4. Exhale. You're going to give me 1 more of those breaths because you're amazing. So inhale. Holding for a count of 2, 3, 4. Exhale. Thank you all for joining me for those 4 or 5 counts of breath. I really appreciated it, and I hope it brought you into the space a little better, eased any nerves. Hope we have our waters and our comfort things. So I do not like introducing the organization that I invite my people from. I would love for them to do that. So Shan, if you could tell me a little bit about your community.
Okay, so Feminitt Caribbean, as you know, most people will know it as Feminitt, is basically an intersectional youth-led feminist organization based in Trinidad and Tobago. We focus on SRHR, comprehensive through comprehensive sexuality education, as well as gender-based violence. Right? So Feminitt is 3 years old. In February. So that's a great milestone for us. We are very small. The work we do is largely seen across social media, but we do have in-person on the ground work happening through, projects like Safe Cycle, which is an ending period poverty initiative, as well as the Right Way, which is a campaign that is geared toward teaching rural communities about our national sexual and reproductive health policy, um, and also other areas in terms of understanding harm, consent, cohesion, and things like that. So that's a brief kind of synopsis with some of the work that we do. Shantae, you're muted.
Thank you. I was just
Welcome.
for a moment. My bad. But I'm almost 30, so I understand. I'm an aging woman. Yeah, thank you for that. And congratulations on turning 3. I know Ashley is here. Congratulations to you both. I know Feminitt is like your child. And they're in their, their 3rd year. I love that. Also loving the work that you both do in Trinidad. So today we're talking about building community on shared principles, and it's something that I've been thinking about, because when we're thinking about building community, again, it's not at the forefront of our mind to be intentional about it. And now I'm seeing it as a conversation within my communities. And I'm like, are values and principles the same things? And apparently they're not. Exactly. Also my surprise. So values listen, I don't know why life is complicated like that. So values are held to be like deserved or important, worth or usefulness of something. It's what you hold important, but your principles are your fundamental truths or your proposition that serve as a foundation for a system of your beliefs or behaviors. And I'm like, that's interesting. I know that I value honesty, and I know that I value authenticity, and I know that I value openness. So what are my principles? And I'm like, I love people that follow through. I love people that show up. And I'm like, are those values or principles? And I'm curious to know what principles your community is built on.
Shantae, you said that, and I felt like my brain had a whirlwind. Because now I'm like, am I done? Do I know? But anyway, I'm joking. But in terms of what you're saying, what we now know principles, I think we are, built on commitment, honesty. And if I'm saying principles versus values, forgive me, but this is a learning in terms of like differentiating. So, integrity, respect, those are some of the things that, we value, and that has built Feminitt, and being able to be understanding, but I think solely it's like a mixture of understanding and commitment, because I think when we think about the work we do and working together with people, those are something that we hold very important to us. So I would say those are some of the foundational principles, I think, or values.
I think we can use them interchangeably. And for me, that's because your principles are built on your values. So like your values are your stepping stone to your principles. And I think another way to think of it is everyone comes to a space with your individual values, but your principles are what you decide together. So you believe in understanding and commitment. And so as a group, what's the principle around that?
I forgot another thing would be like inclusion, because you're heavy on inclusion. So that's another pillar principle within my community.
Yeah. So it's like, how do we build principles on our values? So for me, my principles around authenticity, honesty, and communication means that a principle for me, not sure if I just said principle twice in the same sentence. I have ADHD, so even if I try to run back a thing, it might not work. But on those values, my principle would be I prioritize open and honest communication in all my relationships. And even if I don't have a relationship with you, that's okay. I'm still going to show up in that way because that's a lifestyle principle. And for my community, that's something that I like. And then I realized that to be in community, people also need to, one, value community, and two, need to operate on the principle of wanting to build a community. And that's something that I realized a lot of people don't do. And so when we find that friendships break off or partnerships break off, it's because we're both showing up with different values and different principles. And so how did you and your community agree on your principles?
Well, for one, I think we, in terms of like, for the community of like volunteers or directors, I think we would like, come together to understand each other, to figure out what is needed by each other for us to be able to have a safe space and for us to be able to do the work that we see necessary within the region or within the communities that we serve. So, for example, in terms of inclusion, we are a queer-led organization. We do serve queer people, So outside of that as well, Trinidad is very multiracial. The Caribbean is multiracial. It's so dynamic, so diverse. There's so many different cultures and stuff, and we strive to be able to serve everybody within those communities. It's definitely difficult because, we want people to know everything at once, but we strive for, safe inclusion. So that's like an example. So we're trying to figure out like the gaps in the communities that we serve to be able to create the principles for our community and for the work that we do. So those are some things I would say. I know I'm not saying everything, but definitely that is kind of the process in understanding each other and understanding how we have to do what we have to do. That would be like the process in being able to establish our principles.
So I love that you say understanding each other because I don't think we do that all the time. It's like we meet up, we like each other, we have good conversation, we said, all right, we meet up over a period of time or book up over a period of time and we decide, cool enough, let's exchange numbers. Maybe, okay, well, now we're in the age of TikTok and Instagram. So we follow each other on TikTok and Instagram. Then we start exchanging memes or whatever you young people do on these platforms. And then eventually, some way, somehow, you end up in community. And then a falling out happens, right? So before we get to the falling out, I guess I'm curious about how we maintain the agreements without the threat of punishment or the withdrawal of presence or the exclusion of from community, which is a punishment in and of itself.
Yeah. I think for this particular thing, it's okay. And in my work community, it differs from my like friendship community, right? But in terms of like my work community, I think I'm not saying that I don't do this specifically within like my personal space, but I think it's really important to understand people's journeys and being able to like identify like, okay, this is where this person is at right now, but it possibly isn't lining up to where we once were, and giving them grace, hearing them out, and understanding if this is a space. For me, I like to ask if this is a space where you still would like to be in. Versus saying, hit the road, Jack, right? Because sometimes, like for example, like like growth and this, like learning and stuff it isn't linear. It's not like one straight road. It's up and down, right? And sometimes we may stray away from one thing at one particular point in time in our lives, and then we say, okay, maybe I want to go back to that. So it's like about creating space, not punishing, because everybody's journey is different, and being able to understand people's experiences and different aspects of life is it's really important. So that's something I strive to do. I am still sometimes learning where that is concerned. I won't say I punish anybody, but um, I do feel like sometimes I have a difficult time understanding certain things because, like for me, sometimes things are really clear as day for me, but then I have to give grace and room for other people to, like, you know, see that, okay, maybe this isn't the way this should be, or whatever the scenario is. But basically, giving grace and understanding that people um, are at different levels at different times. We won't all be at the same place at the same time, and that's okay.
That's such a mature response. I love that.
Really,
It is. No, it really is. And I know
crazy.
a friend and I, Christina specifically, and I were having a conversation about giving grace versus giving chances. And it's also something that came up in a session of mine. And my mentor was saying, do you really think you're giving people grace or you're giving them chances? And I feel like that's difficult for us to sometimes differentiate between. And so giving a chance means, it's you mess up this one time, gonna leave it alone, gonna wait and see what happens the next time. But when you give grace, it's, wow, you really reacted like this. And I'm not sure why, and anything could have been the reason, but I'm not having an expectation that you're gonna be better. When I'm giving you grace, I'm allowing you to show up as you are. And then if you show up like that again, that's actually an indication that I should go about my business, like hit the road, Jack. And I was like, look at your son showing up.
But that's why I say, that's why I gave the disclaimer in terms of a professional space. I'm very much more it's like sometimes it's like I don't have a choice. That's how I have to show up, because I have to you know, be understanding to everybody's differences and stuff. But in a personal realm, I can see myself at this stage in certain aspects of personal relationships. I can see myself still at the stage of it's me giving chances versus me giving grace at every instance. So yeah.
I like that you mentioned your work persona versus your personal persona, because that's hilarious for me, because now I'm in a position where I can just show up in both spaces, like just as is, like, and I love that for me, because participating in capitalism means that you are extending grace to the detriment of yourself because you need to get paid. And that is difficult, I think, to constantly be tried in that way. And I'm so glad I gave it up. Really am.
I am in the process. I hope my CEO is not here, but I'm in the process. But yeah, I just feel like, sometimes I have to, the act of code switching. It transcends into like who you are, like where you have to show up. It's like, this is me here, but this is me here. It's sometimes a little exhausting, but
I was at she's not my boss. We're navigating the language, but she's my mentor. I work with one of my mentors, and we were at a dinner, and there's the UN rapporteur for Indigenous peoples at the dinner. And I say to somebody next to me, like, how do you act in these scenarios? Because this is a dinner. It's supposed to be an informal get together because we're all together sitting in a circle, which traditionally is supposed to be a space that you gather informally. There's no rank there. That's why it's a circle. Everybody's on the same level. And she was saying to me, not my mentor, she was saying to me, it's supposed to be an informal space with a little bit of formality. And I'm like, I should go home. Why? Why the performance? Like, we haven't established, the only principle that's been established there is that power is still a significant player in the conversation. But the principle is that see us as indigenous peoples first and showing up as we are and sharing space and taking space while also giving space weren't priority. And I think that's the thing with even wanting to be a part of some group. It's like you want to enact change, but you still have to be mindful. And I hate when that word is used. You still need to be mindful. You're in a professional
Space
setting.
you're in. So that's one thing I can say, that in terms of like my principles as a feminist and as like a openly proud 30-year-old lesbian, I show up, I try my very best. That is something I don't take away from myself at my corporate job, you know. They know who I am, they know what I stand for. Anybody says anything misogynistic or sexist, I am going to like say something in a staff meeting, at a work function, you know, but like there's still like a different side of me that I would hope to like just let go of when I'm in that space. And I think it's just fair of like being seen as, oh, just she's just like a loudmouth activist or whatever, thinking she can come into this space and do that. But with time, I think I can just be my totally full self there. But I don't want to stray too much. But yes.
Please stray. I don't even know what's happening in these streets. Please stray. I have ADHD. I love a good stray. Go, run free. Please,
yeah. But I was just saying, like, you know, that's one thing I think I don't think I am really like proud of myself for, in terms of just like, for the majority of it, me as a person, the things that I stand for, I do it unapologetically. In almost every space that I'm in, I really care very little about people's opinions sometimes, most of the times, and that allows me to just be. Even like doing work and stuff, that's just who I am. And I hope that Feminist kind of gets a little bit of me when doing work and not having to care what other people think about what type of work that we do. Because if it's necessary and it has to be done, regardless of what people think.
Very Aries Sun energy. I kind of want to see your full chart to see what happens there, because that also very Scorpio energy. I'm not sure if that's because you have a Scorpio in your life. Could be.
I've been like that before having a Scorpio in my life, but I'm an Aries Sun and Moon.
Sun and Moon. Wow, that's brave of everybody involved, to be honest. I think Kyle was saying in the chat, having personas is so weird to me. I just want to be one person. And I think when we say we're in community, it's giving people the space to show up as they are. It's beyond authenticity. It's creating the space where people feel safe to show up as they are. And for some people, I guess, to realize, oh, wow, there's an opportunity for you to shift, for you to move, for you to weave and mold yourself into a new person. And I know that's a difficulty I have for the way how I want to navigate my life. It's, yes, I can make space for you to show up and be yourself, but the version of you that shows up has to be one that's in alignment with my life. So you can't be showing up having some like unhealthy, bad practices in the way you engage people and engage people you're in community with at that. And you think, oh, I'm still going to be here. No, because at the forefront, I tell you, these are the things that I value and prioritize. This is how I would like my space to be. This is how I like to be engaged. So, I have expectations, and I'm wondering if having expectations is a principle that we practice, and whether or not it's quote unquote good or bad.
You said that, and I was just here like, I need to do so much work in myself. Because I do not, I think, like setting that it's like basically like principles but like boundaries as well, right? And I think I have never really gotten into any sort of community with that upfront. It always happens after something has went wrong. Or maybe it still never happens even though things go wrong. You know, so I forgot the question that you asked me, my Jesus, but and I feel like you probably forget too. You did, I'm sure.
It was
You know
whether or
that,
not having expectations is a good or bad.
right? So for me, I don't think it's a bad. Okay, let me stop lying here. Jesus. Based on experiences, I would say it's not bad, but it can be. What's the adjective to describe expectations? It can be. It could just this since it's being recorded, you can see it's like here or there. I don't know. It creates space for disappointment, but it also, I guess, it also guides you to know if something is okay or not, right? Because then you have a gut, an experience that you're gonna know if you feel good about it or bad about it, right? So overall, I guess it definitely guess it's not like a bad thing, but it definitely can lead to discomfort, and nobody likes discomfort. But I guess discomfort is there for you to grow, or for you to learn things about yourself, um, which would then also help you create further like principles and boundaries about yourself in spaces that you exist in.
I love that you mentioned discomfort and it being necessary to grow. I remember I saw a post on Instagram the other day about people fleeing from conflict and not realizing that conflict is an opportunity for growth. How you show
Mm,
up conflict helps you to transcend showing up in your relationships because it also is a form of vulnerability. Because for me, I know if you upset me and I get ready to knock heads, I need to take 24 hours. And I tell people that if anything happens and I'm upset, please allow me space for 24 hours. I'm not going to be able to communicate with you because I need to work through my emotions, especially if it's a scenario where I'm triggered. I have no words, like there are none. I need to work through that. And I think there's some expectations that we navigate knowing that there will be conflict. It's impossible
mm-hmm.
for there not to be conflict because you're coming to spaces as different people. Nobody is an
People,
copy of you.
yeah,
Even if you're trying to build community and you have similar values, some of those values are gonna differ. Some of your principles are gonna differ. So there's gonna be
yeah.
disagreement. It doesn't matter what you call it. So kudos to you.
As
Um,
you said that before you move on, I remembered something like, I need to like give myself grace in terms of like, because in like spaces like as you just mentioned, it's always gonna be some sort of like level of conflict or something or disagreement. I have to always remind myself to just step back, because sometimes you may be so passionate about something or so irritated by something, and you're ready to react on whatever you're feeling in the moment. And that's something I am learning to do. Um, you know, it's difficult, but I want to say giving myself 24 hours sounds like a good idea. You know,
and it doesn't
because
have to be 24 hours.
sometimes that space may allow the person or persons to see where they would have gone wrong or done something that may not be healthy or safe within your community. Um, so yeah.
Yeah. And, knowing that we're showing up as we are means that things are going to happen. Things might pop off. We're making space for if it does pop off. Like, who is the honor council that then holds us together in those moments when, like, there's a disagreement? How do you make space for principles that no longer align with the vision you have for your community? And I do mean community, personal, professional, whatever.
So I think I've probably said a little of that answer before, where I leave room to give people, well, not leave room, but I give grace to people because I know that, people grow. The way in which you started something may not be the way you end it. So, for example, the way in which we think about, like, let me just use this example. I hope it's a good example, but like how we use, there are some people who don't identify as feminists because of where it came from, right? But we have sort of like adapted that to suit our needs, right? So something like that. I mean, we start off with one particular thing meaning something, and then it has a different meaning, right? So it's like developing. And for me, I feel like if my community would have been built on, I don't know, X plus one, but moving on as years go by, X plus one starts to be evolved into X plus three. And we no longer want to be associated with X plus one because it's leaving out some people behind. It's about like finding how we can. Ooh, sorry about that. Those are not my dogs. These are not my dogs. Yeah. But like basically it's just like figuring out and giving grace to understand that things change. Um some things we have, you know, believed in before can evolve, and I feel like it's sort of like understanding that things things always develop or like transcend into something else. And we have to figure out like, what works best for us in a specific time, and being able to not necessarily, well, not completely throw away what we used from the beginning, but pull the aspects of it that is relevant now. I hope I answered that question. My brain is like all over this that question, but yeah.
You did. I was asking if the son was a chicken and if the chicken was alive.
Oh, that was the puppies, and they fight for everything, and they're not my dogs. But apologies for the crime scene or the acts of violence that you always just
They
now.
are now your puppies, and I think you need to just start owning that. Yeah. And I think, yeah, change is definitely inevitable, just like Kyle was saying, conflict is inevitable. To be honest, I think if my community is not evolving, I think I might be shocked by that. Like, I can understand our core principles being the same, but us like changing it up and adding more things to the space. Like, I'm evolving as an individual, so I know some of my beliefs are going to change. And I'm seeing that in my life now. Like, I'm approaching 30, and I always thought, like, every day around this time, there's a helicopter. I want to know where they're going, and I would like to go too.
Who you're looking for?
Like, anyways, lost my train of thought about my principles changing and approaching 30, and 30 coming with its own thing, and assuming 30 means a big party because it's a new decade. I've been alive for 3 decades, for 3 decades.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, and I have nothing planned. But then I'm into this era of easefulness. My friend was saying soft life looks good on you. I didn't start out wanting a soft life. I started out wanting peace. Peace and rest, being at home, playing with my plants, scrapbooking, coloring. I got soft life. And it's just changing up what you want and changing you. And to be honest, I'm a little bit surprised. I'm a little bit judgmental if somebody doesn't change. You cannot be on this earth for how many years and you're just like, this is the only thing that I know and it's the only thing that I'm sticking to. Yeah. Maybe I need to give grace, but that is surprising.
Yeah. No, that's wasting time on earth, to be honest, because every day you're doing something new. There's so much things to like, consume yourself with, So there's always room for new information and new knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Are there any questions in the chat for Shan? Carl saying no growth this whole time. Honestly, truly, it's like
No, I would mention a few people I think I have the right to mention, but I won't because I feel like I have known people for my entire life. I have left the country, I've lived in Jamaica, come back home and meet the exact same people with the exact same mindsets. And it's just like, how? How?
I think I'm
that even
about that. Because one, sometimes we want to keep people the same way as we've known them because it's a lot more comfortable for us to navigate. And the flip side of that is that when people want to keep you like that and not see you as an individual who grows, is because they don't want to grow and they're uncomfortable with who you are becoming. And I know that's happened to me, and I had to like say bye to a friendship because of it, because they thought I was getting more spiritual. And I'm like, I'm not getting more spiritual. What I am is coming to terms with a lot of the things that have happened to me and have allowed me to morph into this person. And if you're not comfortable with that, I understand. Go in peace, go with love. You're still my G. But that's how it is, you know? But honestly, it is surprising. Like, everything changes. Look at the mango trees. The mango trees are now bearing mango.
I have high school classmates who were friends that are the same way, and I literally, and I guess I don't know how to get grace where that's concerned, because it's not like I'm awful to them or anything, but I have understood that the principles and the stuff that I invested in, you're not, and we all don't have the same level of opportunities, like the same, but I feel like if I am in a space where I can help you get to, to understand things that are very important, like human rights, like, equity, like justice and stuff like that. If you have people in your yard, in your court, and you are like, avoiding it, then I have to at least give myself grace to not be in an environment where, does not match the needs or, match the values that I see as super important, But yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever seen those posts about matching energy and then people being surprised. And I used to enjoy seeing that post. I used to really enjoy it because it was always so telling when you would engage people the way they engaged you and see their reactions. And then about a year and a half or 2 years ago, I saw someone post, I no longer meet people with the same energy. I just remove mine. I was like, you chose peace. You chose a Christ-like peace, and I want it. I want it. I chose that peace, and I've never looked back. I'm like, why was I matching energy all this time? And I'm like, it's where you are in life. Like, it's who you're around.
Yeah.
You don't want peace, you want problems. I do not want problems. I'm not good at math. I'm not solving X. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that actually, and the sad reality is with that, it actually transcends into like spaces like family. Like I have like, distanced myself from a lot of like relatives because of that. Like, I guess unknowingly doing like, match people energy, you just leave. Because it's just not healthy, it's not creating that environment that you want.
And family as a community.
Or need.
Family as a community, I think in debatable, but I don't know. I'm not in every type of family across the world. can be difficult, and that's something that we're all learning. Like sometimes you're just gonna have to say, not because we're blood means that we're good, not because we're blood means that we're in community. It means that somebody can take my blood and they can find like similar people. But it's also the way I think people only know how to engage each other is because it's through blood. That means you have to put up with anything. And I remember like when I would start responding to my mother, answering her back, because I'm like, I am not doing this. I do not have the space for it. And then a couple of years ago, like working through my core wounds and my child wounds, I'm like, oh, you got your own stuff going on, sis. I don't need to match. I don't need to answer. I'm just gonna say, wow, I don't do it all the time. Sometimes I revert and my Taurus sim comes out and she's like, let's go. Let's go. This is what you want. Let me give you that. But it's also the only way I think people know how to connect with the history that we have. It's violence is the only way we know how to connect. Insulting each other to get a response is the only way that we know how to connect. And again, we have to be intentional about who we want in our community and how we want to engage them in our communities. I think. Kyle, please stop laughing at me. I don't like math. If there are no questions for my wonderful, brilliant host, I'm going to just ask you to tell us where we can find you and your community on the social media.
Well, you can find Feminitt on, let me just type it in because, but you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and our website. I will type all the stuff in the chat because it's all at Feminitt for every social media platform.
I would just like you both to know that I always say Feminitt TT.
I know it. That's exactly. It's not. It's Feminitt.
Okay.
Right. I wish we had to whisper.
But this is how my brain some information, and it says Feminitt TT. So I know TT.
So it's Feminitt across all social media platforms.
Thank
you. Look at me, can't multitask here. Right, and Feminitt Caribbean .org for our website. And I'm Sean Black on Instagram and Twitter.
Thank you so much for joining me today, Sean Black, also Chanelle Beatrice, also co-founder of Feminitt. FEMTT. And thank you so much to everyone who joined today. Very excited that we had all of 6 attendees in total.
Right.
Great. We're doing really good. I hope you have a wonderful evening and the puppies don't maul anything else for the rest of their lives, to be honest. And take pictures and tag me in them on Instagram.
I will not be posting those mongrels, but I will send you privately. But thank you so much for even considering me for this conversation. And I'm really happy that I agreed, because I sometimes really shy away from things like this. And it was nice, a very interesting and knowledgeable conversation. I learned a lot. Principles versus values.
Yeah.
And I also learned a lot of things about myself, reflecting and stuff like that. So I am wishing you all the success with doing more conversations on this platform, and sending you all the motivation and vacuuming all the imposter syndrome out of you.
Thank you.
So you can have so much more successful sessions and even larger audiences. But bigger of us 6 people one time.
Think of the homosexual people doing what they need to do and showing up in this. Thank you, my love. Have a
So
wonderful day,
welcome.
everyone.
Same to you.
Bye.
Bye.